Welcome to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, brought to you by Your One Self. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill. And as always, my co-host is Andrew Moshokumu. Together, we'll explore the transformative journey of self-discovery and holistic integration. Our purpose is to provide ancient wisdom and evidence-based methods, allowing you to merge your mind, body, and spirit into a harmonious whole. Alongside us today, we are blessed to have Tara O'Neill, a clinical hypnotherapist, certified life coach, and yoga instructor. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. 3, 2, 1, and we're live and in living color. Welcome back to another enlightening episode of Journey to Your Best Self from Your One Self. I'm your host, as always, Brian O'Neill. And today we're diving into a topic that has the power to transform not just your day, but your entire life: gratitude. Joining me, as always, is our resident expert, Tara O'Neill. Tara, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here as always, and a very important topic, one near and dear to my heart. So I can't wait to dive in.
Yes, absolutely. And we are grateful to start it off, to have you here. So that's my first expression of
I'm
gratitude.
grateful to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Before we even get started, can you just give us a little 101 as to why both gratitude is so important to the mind, body, and spirit pillars that we always talk about at Journey to Your Best Self and Your One Self, and also why is it a topic that's so close to you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So awareness is really a big part of mind, body, spirit integration. What gratitude allows us is to be aware of our thoughts, our actions, our reality, our surroundings. So it can allow us to be more present. So, and let's just start by saying, like, what's the difference between being thankful and being grateful? We can be thankful for the present moment, right? I'm really thankful to you. That can sometimes be a little more fleeting. Gratitude, we want to be a state of constant appreciation and like really be embodying, as opposed to a little bit more of a fleeting transactional, like, thank you, which is great. Thankfulness and gratitude go hand in hand and can be used together. But just to kind of differentiate that, because sometimes we say gratitude and it can seem like something out there that's like, oh, you have to, either you have it or you don't, or it's a little elusive. So we want to bring it down to here, like something that we can embody on a day-to-day basis and bring into our life. And it doesn't always have to actually be traditional things that, oh, well, I'm grateful for my loved ones, my family, my friends. And we'll get into this, a little bit later, of all the things we can be grateful for and how that is going to change our neurobiology. But gratitude, and part of it is awareness. We want people to start being more aware of their thoughts and of their words and of their feelings and observing, right? So mindfulness, awareness is huge, is hugely connected to the practice of gratitude.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's good to differentiate while they're close, to really the thankfulness and the gratefulness, because you might at first blush think, I'm always thanking people, I'm very thankful for everything, but there's a fleeting nature to being thankful, right? And gratitude, what we like to promote along with it, or encourage or grow, is that sustainability, right? So when you are grateful, it's something that's more long lasting, I think, and that's kind of beneficial for that balance that we're trying to, and I think it can also be felt more by if it happens to be a person or being on the receiving end, right? The gratefulness can kind of be appreciated on their end more so.
Absolutely. Right. Sometimes we'll say thanks and we'll be in a rush, and it's you might not actually feel that transaction of like, thank you. Like, I truly appreciate this and I'm grateful for this. And that's a different than like, okay, thanks. So we want to, like I said, bring in the intention or the awareness, which we can do by intention. But it's important to use gratitude as a practice. And so we're going to say what we say for most of our practices is consistency. And so we want to use the consistency, and we'll teach you how to make it a practice and stick with it. But to answer your question as how it's near and dear to me is I was able to, I had a lot of negative thinking and worst case
Mm,
scenario. I think the cool kids say like that doomsday type of cycle, like the worst things that could happen, they all kind of just show up at once. And I found myself there. And so through my trainings of yoga and hypnosis, rewiring the brain through neuroplasticity, I found gratitude to be massively helpful in shifting those negative thoughts, right? And so because you don't have to try and fight the negative thoughts, like that's when there's resistance, and it can actually make it a little bit worse. Where gratitude, you can still have the stressors and the anxiety and the overwhelm, in a sense, but gratitude takes you in a different direction. And then
mm,
eventually, the creating new neural pathways through affirmations and meditation, gratitude is the same thing. Now your brain is going to be programmed to go towards gratitude as opposed to towards the negative thinking. And so the more we strengthen that new pathway, that new highway, that new road, the more that those negative thoughts or the negative thinking becomes the old dirt road. And we want to, and so then it becomes almost a way of life. And you're like, wow,
mm.
this is amazing. Like I've actually, I'm embodying it, and it becomes natural, and I'm experiencing joy in every situation, every moment, not every, but my point being, I can, right? It's empowering. I'm able to have control over which thoughts I think, what experiences I feel positive towards. And so I found a lot of empowerment through gratitude.
Well, excellent. And hopefully we can definitely spread that to others listening and viewing. Um, let's continue with the science aspect of it. Gratitude is not just a feel good temporary concept. It's a practice that it has now in recent years been extensively studied, and there have been proven significant effects on the brain and body, some of which you just hinted out. But can you explain a little bit more about how gratitude impacts our brain chemistry?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the beautiful thing is now we have science to support exactly what's going on. And we know now, in a way, it is kind of a feel good practice because it is allowing neurotransmitters and hormones like dopamine and serotonin, you could say the brain's natural antidepressants, to be released. And so
Mm,
they have studied that in the brain, several areas are being activated through the gratitude practices, and particularly the medial prefrontal cortex, which can be associated with learning, decision making, and memory. And so remember, the neurons that wire together fire together, and so it has a compound effect, right? So now we're having more joy, which is wonderful, of course, but we're also becoming more curious. We are entering different flows, positive flow states that enhance our learning and our cognition, our communication. So we now have the research to back um, and support the practice benefiting our biology. And does that answer your question? I'm hoping that it's not too neurobiology or nerdy to get into, but it's just nice to know that there you can find for our maybe our evidence-based or science-based viewers and listeners, they'll like to read some of those research studies that are out there.
No, yes, it does. Yes, it's important, and that's kind of why I want to start there, because I think enough people know about a lot of the hormones that, like dopamine and serotonin, and with the prevalence of a lot of antidepressant and anxiety medicines that people take, and the studies of, and the people that are just kind of searching for that sustained contentment and um, baseline of, just like you had said earlier, feeling good and joyful all the time. And, anytime we can get natural way to achieve that,
Yeah.
it's preferred for sure. One of the great things that gratitude can do also is it can spread, because a lot of the time, and we'll talk about some of the things you can be grateful for, it is a person. It can be paid forward and it can be received, and it's not just an inanimate object. It can spread to your community, to your
Yeah.
friends, family, and it can and continue to spread outward. It has that ripple effect, but then that comes back to you ultimately when you spread that gratefulness, changes others around you, and kind of reverberates back to you. So there's a lot of ancillary benefits to
Now,
this.
that's huge. I don't know about you, but I'm always reminded when
Yeah.
I see somebody that has like this great outlook on life, right? And I feel like most people have like that one person that's always like always in a good mood, right? And it's like life has often been like really tough on them, but they're like,
Hmm.
you know what? I got up today, and like
Hmm.
or
Mm.
whatever their mantra is or their affirmation, and they have a smile on their face, and they might have lousy health. Or, like I said, a lot of times it's the people that have had adversity that have reprogrammed their brain and rewired it for gratitude that spread so much joy to others. And so every time I see that, it's like I get a warm and fuzzy feeling. I'm like, oh, I guess I have so much to be grateful for. And I want to share that light and that love to other people. That's where we, like we keep saying, these some of these tools are free and available to everyone. So we want to show you efficient ways to use them. And yeah, I just get very excited when I see that, and hopeful, right? Hopeful. And we'll talk too about how we can do it with family and friends, and how we can spread that ripple in the lake. When you throw that rock, and you have that ripple effect.
Yes, that was a real vivid analogy, and not nicely, yeah, the metaphor on a metaphor on a metaphor.
Oh, I love
But
metaphors.
it's good though. It definitely kind of crystallizes the point we're trying to make. So speaking of the mind body connection with the brain, and those neural pathways, more than just mental health, right? What are some of the impacts gratitude is going to have on other parts of your physical health? And what are some things that have been measured and reported and proven as
Yeah.
far as different effects that gratitude's going to have?
Yeah. I mean, the most basic, and remember, the mind body connection is powerful, right? So when we have these gratitude practices, we lower our stress levels, and our cortisol can go down, and we can have better sleep. We can have lower blood pressure, a stronger immune system. And so it can allow us to have a healthier lifestyle, right? So in essence, it will trickle down to, well, maybe you have less stress, and you have better sleep, and you have more energy, and now you're working out, and now you have a meditation practice, and those around you are benefiting. And so it's never like underestimate the power of a practice, and some of the practices that we're sharing, that ripple effect in more. I can use that metaphor for so many things.
Yeah, one of the things that, as you were talking about how it could connect to working out and being grateful for, if you were able to achieve some kind of personal best, as you were able to finish a run that you weren't able to do, or lift a weight that you weren't able to do, or complete a spin class where you didn't have to take five and get some water. When you're grateful for yourself, it doesn't have to be something external that you're grateful for. It can be something internal that you're grateful for too. And that also has kind of this kind of cycle of gratitude that almost gets automatic. And you're grateful for something that you've accomplished physically, perhaps. And now that your body or yourself is what you're grateful for, now you're going to be more inclined to treat it better because, oh, I'm grateful for, I can remember in school, one of my son's classes, they had, what's part of you that you're grateful for? And then some of the students had said maybe their legs, because I like to run, I run fast, or my hands so I can catch. So in the same way, if you're grateful for something, all these legs, it got me through this 10K that I had really been working towards. Now you're going to be more inclined to eat better, maybe hydrate more, get that rest in, get that sleep in, because there's something that I'm grateful for, so I'm going to be more inclined to take care of it.
Yeah.
So that's again part of that self-fulfilling, yourself as well. It's super important to take care of yourself. When you turn it inward, then you're going to be more inclined to treat your body like a temple, as the phrase goes,
Yeah.
and that's just going to strengthen that body pillar. So
Uh,
does that make sense? Can you kind of expand on that, or maybe,
Absolutely.
fine tune it a bit?
Sure. Yeah. And I think, with the Olympics going on, it's a great time to look at these beautiful specimens of humans that, I would imagine they treat their body like a temple, right?
Mm,
So that, we have things, sometimes we have external things that we care about, which is okay. Let's say you have a car that you love and, you're polishing it, you're making sure that there's no dent that gets in that, you own a home, you have a sense of ownership, and you make sure that house is perfect. I want people to have that for themselves. And you said it beautifully. It's like, okay, well, my legs get me out of bed every day. Like me, I'm going to take care of them. Like I'm really grateful for them. I'm going to do what I need to do to give my body the nutrients, and physical activity and the nurturing. And so there is actually an element of self-care and self-love. Another word that I'm grateful that has, a lot of awareness out there, but can be maybe a little misunderstood. And so we absolutely can take this and make it improve our relationship with ourselves. And so being grateful for, and know that it is a practice, right? So you can have, like, you can be really tough on yourself and still have some of those negative thoughts, while also at the same time being grateful for getting out of bed, right? So it doesn't have to be some grand achievement. It can be any little aspect that you're grateful for, right? And so often when we can go right into, well, what happens when you don't have anything to be grateful for? And that's even a better reason to have the practice, right? Because it's a practice. We're recreating the neural networks. So we have to start somewhere. So, of course, many people are grateful for their family and friends, and that's a wonderful place to start. But you want to also, add other things into there, right? So, can you move your body? Do you have, hands that can allow you to steer a steering wheel? Or do
mm,
you have the agility to prepare food? Do you have food in the fridge? Do you have clean water? Can you see? Can you look into nature? Can you breathe? Can you feel? Can you have empathy? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have access to a toothbrush? Do you have access to a shower? Like, these are things that we might take for granted on a daily basis. And when you go through your day and you think, oh man, wow, I have all of these things. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm going to be okay. And
mm,
then, those can always be a part of your practice, but then you might inch up to other things. Well, wow, I have all of this. Maybe I could share a little bit of this.
mm,
And that's when we start branching out. So I suggest that people, you can have a gratitude journal. That's wonderful. But I would say choose something new each day, right? So you can do your family, your friends, your food, your shelter, but do something a little bit outside the norm. Like, I'm so grateful for the guy from the postman who smiles and waves at me every day, right? So that maybe then you make sure you go out of your way to talk to him and you give that back. And so again, we're creating these imprints. And what's happening in your mind when you remind yourself to be grateful, your subconscious is looking for things that it can be grateful for. And then it almost becomes a game. And it's like, well, how can I make somebody else's life better? How can I make my life better? How can I magnify this gratitude? Because the more that we're grateful for, the more we get to be grateful for. And I welcome people to kind of sit with that and really like expand on it, like, and practice it, try it, and get back to us and let me see. We want to hear how that goes for you, right? The more you're thankful for, grateful for, I assure you, the universe will give you more to be grateful for and thankful for.
Excellent. Yeah, very hopeful, promising message. So now people are excited, curious, really anticipating some of these benefits. What are some simple ways that listeners can incorporate gratitude into their daily lives?
Yeah, similar to the affirmation practice, you might want to start your day or end your day with it, right? Because we're in that place of a more relaxed state. Our brain's a little bit more open and receptive, and it's great for routine. So you might incorporate that into, if you have a journaling practice, you might journal, jot some of those down. I mean, I remember like when I used to be in meetings and I would jot down like things that I was grateful for. Not to say you shouldn't be paying attention to your meeting, but if there's some angst in the meeting and it's like you're trying to stay positive and present, like maybe, right, like you could do it. My point being, you could do it anywhere, any time of day, right? And so writing them down like affirmations, it's going to help strengthen them, and reading them back to you is going to be helpful. Do you want to write them on a sticky note?
Well,
I love it as a practice to do with your family or friends because it kind of gives you good ideas. And it's like, oh, I didn't even realize, like, I was so grateful for that too. Like your morning tea or your morning coffee, or if you have someone that does something nice for you and you don't even, you are grateful for it. That's the thing. I'm not saying that we're not great. We are grateful often, but we maybe we're not mindful. We don't take the time to actually say, oh, I'm grateful for it. Because we don't know if the other person realizes that we love them and we're grateful for them and, really appreciate what they're doing. So that's another aspect of it, is to share it with someone, just tell someone, hey, I'm really grateful for you and the way that you, smile and greet me hi every morning. Like, thanks. And that goes a long way. So I have a couple tips and tricks. I like to, for example, when I'm brushing my teeth, I put a little hairband around my toothbrush as a reminder to think of what I'm grateful for when I'm brushing my teeth. You can use like your hand before you even get out of bed, 5 things that you're grateful for. When you're washing your hands, you can remind yourself to be grateful for things. So this is taking your practice throughout the day.
Okay.
So you can do it in the morning, you can do it in the evening. A lot of people, when they're doing it with family, they might do it at dinner, right? And say like, oh, like what's something that everyone is grateful for that happened in their day, or that they're excited for tomorrow or overall. So a great conversation starter and
real positive, energy changer potentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can gently guide the conversation in that direction. And like even just saying something like, oh, like what's something good that you have done today or that you're looking forward to, as opposed to, sometimes people will connect through complaints. So complaining in our culture I don't think it's done maliciously. I think sometimes it is a way to connect with people. And if we can connect on something a little more positive, it may help with that practice. So, how about that rain or that weather, or that sports team? I don't want to call anyone out, but oh, yeah, they suck, or how
Yeah.
about that leader? And it's like, it's just very heavy. The positive thing is
Or,
that,
even at work, how about that boss? Or can you believe,
right, you believe it.
Johnson has us, working late on Fridays? Is like, this is
Right.
outrageous.
Right. So while I do think it is an attempt for us to connect, we don't have to connect over complaints, right?
Mm.
We can connect over other things, right? So I would encourage you, if you have that person, just say, hey, what's something good that happened in your day, right? Or just share, just share. Yeah, I am loving my day. And isn't it wonderful? And sometimes you're going to get this look like, why are they so positive, right? And
Mhm.
so take that as a compliment, right? That's like, oh, something's working, right? Somebody's complaining that I'm too positive. That's great. And now that's going to
Yeah,
be just,
connecting over complaints is, and we have some things lined up too about how kind of removing negativity from your world. That's one of the ways to be more positive and to be more grateful and remove your stress from your lives or overwhelm is just simply to not surround yourself with it, especially early on when it can be daunting or challenging to be that lone voice by the water cooler that's like, well, Mr. Johnson is probably getting mandates from his bosses as well, and there are targeted goals that we have to hit. So it's kind of understandable that he's asking for volunteers to come in on Saturday or whatever it is, right? It's sometimes difficult to be that voice, like you said, when you feel like you're on an island by yourself. So sometimes, especially early on in the beginning stages of this journey, it can be helpful just to remove yourself from those situations. And when you notice that people aren't grateful and it seems daunting or
yeah,
challenging, or that it's not the right time or place to say be more
yes,
grateful to everyone when you're one on five or six or more people, right? So if you want to remove yourself and
hmm,
just be kind of alone with these practices and these thoughts, that's okay as well.
absolutely. That's perfectly said. And it may be a trial and error, right? Because you don't, at the same time, you don't want to go over to this group and say, hey guys, let's go around and say what we're happy for, right?
Mhm.
And so you don't, what I would recommend is not going defending or over explaining or justifying your happiness or your positivity. There are things you could say like, oh, that's interesting, or maybe, right? And so we don't want to create resistance or to isolate yourself, right? Sometimes just being neutral is fine. And I'm not saying that we have to be what is like a toxic positivity. And
Mm.
I'll just quickly touch on that is, toxic positivity is often when we negate any sort of negative feelings or don't look at things that might be harder or uncomfortable. And so we're definitely not saying like don't feel your feelings or deny yourself. We're saying that this is a perspective shift, and it's a practice that you'll probably start, more on your own and realize that not everybody else is going to maybe share your enthusiasm. But I'm not sure if anyone has like, the toxic positivity could make other people feel bad. Like, if someone loses their job, you might not say like, well, just be grateful you used to have one, right? That might not be the right thing to say at that time. So,
Mm.
we want to tread carefully to be empathetic and compassionate and understanding to where everyone is on their journey.
Absolutely. On the other hand, it does, it can, if there are people, it can really transform relationships or other people's point of view when and this is something that we are going to talk about in the future, but, people that you are in conflict with or are, not enemies, but maybe you've had a challenging relationship with them, if you can, find the positive parts of that connection and be grateful and strengthen those bonds, it can really change them on the receiving end as well. So there's definitely an opportunity for that if done. I find often that, when it's kind of more of a one-on-one situation, it can be more effective. But yeah, there's definitely, depending on where you are in your kind of mastery of gratitude, or how comfortable you are, it's going to really be transformative to other people too. So it's just, um, when you're starting out with anything new, it can be kind of daunting to bring it to the masses. But, eventually you're going to see there's opportunities to connect with those closest to you, your immediate family, your close friend family circle, and it definitely will spread, and you'll be that kind of agent of change, I believe, truly. And then it's going to come right back to you. Like you had said, if the more grateful you are, the more the universe is going to give you things that are grateful. That's really all part of the kind of your one self ethos, right? If you start to practice a lot of the things that we are trying to do here, the abundance is going to come back to you. So that's just kind of what's so amazing about all this.
Absolutely.
Um, so let's kind of, well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just also going to say, gratitude doesn't always have to be synonymous with positivity in this sense. It can
Mm,
be this, this underlying feeling of appreciation, of satisfaction with life. And, because I've been through a lot of, challenging experiences on my journey, and I can say that I'm grateful for them, and they were not traditionally positive, but I can have a perspective of gratitude for the adversity, because we do live in a dualistic universe, right? And so in order to appreciate the light, you need to know darkness. And
hmm
so in order to appreciate what you have, sometimes we need it, it needs to not be there. Right. And so what we're not saying that we want you to stay all in the light and not have, this journey of feeling all of the things and have this grand dynamic experience like that. Whatever you are, it's beautiful. I just wanted to make that um connection, that it might not always feel good. And there might be days where you're like, screw gratitude, I don't feel any gratitude. And that's when I would encourage you to say, like, okay, well, most of me doesn't feel grateful for anything, but a small part of me feels grateful for literacy, right? It doesn't feel so like such a wide gap to be down here feeling lousy, and gratitude has to be up here cheery and smiley and all excited for the day, right? So you can be down here and still acknowledge your gratitude practice. It's very unique and very personal to you, so you need to navigate it and try what works for you. We just want you to stick with it.
Yeah, I can definitely see so much of those Olympic athletes that you referenced earlier. And I think bigger than just gratitude, many of them encompass a lot of what we're talking about when at Your One Self, and a lot of the episodes that we've had with Journey to Your Best Self. They've really figured out how to meld the mind, body, and spirit pillars together for that combination has taken them to higher levels. I was thinking just on what you were saying now, and then a bigger thought in a sec, but being grateful for things that didn't necessarily like a endorphin rush. Sometimes it's the things that you overcome that you're eventually grateful for, because that hard work and that dedication and that will made you who you are today, so to speak. So I think a lot of times when the athletes are successful, or even when they're not, after competing, often the very first person that they run to, I mean, I've seen this time and time again, is not just the girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or a mom that has traveled so far to see them often overseas in a different continent, but it's the coach. I mean, that's who time and time again you see these people, I'm almost certain that a lot of times it takes some of the cameramen or women unawares because they're panning to the crowd, and then they know who the parents are, but then the athlete will go to the coach first because at that moment of triumph, or like the achievement, or just the even just completing or competing and just being part of the process, they I'm assuming that they think back and now they're grateful for that's what got them there. So in the moments they hated the coach, when they were out in the heat, you know, hour after hour, kind of grinding it out, and they would rather be doing something somewhere else, or they didn't think that they needed to be putting in that work and be putting in that time and the blood, sweat, and tears. But then without that, they wouldn't have been able to achieve what they had achieved. So now they're grateful for someone they really maybe were. I'm trying to word this properly. They were really,
You're like,
not a huge fan of, right? They would rather see anyone else when they're alone there on the practice field, course, pool, gym, and they now appreciate. So that's the gratefulness, right? That's the gratitude. That is because they have been practicing that gratefulness, right? And been consistent. That's the consistency, right? So they've been grateful every step of the way, the opportunities that they've been afforded, right? The situations that had led them to be there. And they've been practicing this gratitude. And so now somebody that kind of really made you feel uncomfortable, and it wasn't someone that made you feel happy along the way, ultimately brought you to this place of like pure joy. Really, wow, now that is the sustained self-actualized person I've become is because of them, right? So that's the gratitude for people that aren't, or situations that you wouldn't automatically think that's something that someone new would be grateful for. So they really get it. That's what I'm saying. They really get exactly what you were trying to say. Another thing that I was thinking before we wrap things up is it was such a good example to use because there's so many people that maybe aren't necessarily into athletics or competition that really do tune in for the Olympic 16 days. And I think that they're just great examples of the mind, body, and spirit, connection, and how all these three things are interrelated. So, a podcast that I do listen to, one of the kind of OGs of podcasting, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, he kicked off the Olympic season, so to speak, with a couple of superstar former American Olympians, and you do see how, right, the Daily Stoic, I think we can get, for those who are unfamiliar, kind of an idea of, the theme of his podcast. There's that mental aspect that he's not interviewing them to find out how they were able to beat their last kind of lifting achievement by 5 pounds, or how they were able to cut down like a tenth of a second by a certain amount of protein or whatever that they'd eaten. It's more about the mental aspect of what made them great. And that shows the mind body connection. You can't help but a lot of the, kind of religious, the crosses or the tattoos that have a religious connotation, the meditation, right? So there's that spiritual element that is, I would say, very more prevalent in a lot of the athletes than in greater society, right? So there's something about how they harness and how they're open to utilizing all these three pillars to kind of truly achieve, to self-actualize for them, right? For your one self, for their one self, where they want it to go. It has to be about all three of these pillars. It can't just be about in the gym by yourself alone without any mental practice or spiritual connection that you have, right? They've really found a way to forge. It's just so evident that they're there, and they've combined the three things that we preach regularly. And I appreciate that, because you would often think, oh, they're just, a negative, just kind of shut up and dribble, like dumb athlete thing, is somewhat pervasive in people that kind of look down on maybe sports and stuff. But I think that they prove that there's so much more to it than that, and they've really kind of mastered that trifold pillar that we always talk about. I know that was pretty long-winded, but any kind of comments there?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I get so emotional in the, with the athletes because having been, I mean, always being a relatively empathic person, and not that I've had the extreme training of some of this, but now having experienced a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, when I see these Olympic athletes, I times that by like 1,000, and I'm just like, I want to almost tell people, like, you don't even know what they've done to get there.
Mm,
And same
mhm,
thing with athletes, right? Because
mhm,
we still, and I love the point where, it doesn't matter who you look to, the universe, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whoever it is. But I mean, how many times do you hear somebody win an award and grab their cross and say, like, I have to thank, like, the universe? And that's the self-actualization, is like to know that you are a part of something so much greater than you can even imagine. And so through this journey, like, and every inspirational, journey, every hero's journey, I think, has some of these elements of struggle, of pain, and the blood, sweat, and the tears. And so a lot, we can be quick to judge, but I think what's so beautiful about the Olympics is, like, you get to see that, like, you get to see that firsthand. When they, like, I'm getting like teary eyed when they like hug the coach, and it's like, oh my gosh, we actually did this. Like, that is to me, like, being a human, right? And the shared experience that billions of people can have, like, that we can ignore, not ignore, but for a moment we can come together and we can have, like, this harmony and this kindness, this love, this compassion, this understanding, this, like, support for one another. Like, that's where I want to take, your one self. I want people to feel that more often, right? Not have it to be like just for the Olympics, but, like, recognize, like, we're a gift. Like, life is a gift, and we can transform it to feel that way more often. And anyone can do astronomical things. Like, maybe you're not going to be at the Olympics, but you can be on your own journey, and with consistency you can do anything. And you can, when you have this mind, body, spirit, when you have all the pillars working together, so to speak, you can accomplish anything. And so I definitely resonated with what you're saying. And I do think athletes and, sometimes even celebrities and people that are famous, like, they get a lot of haters, right? And, maybe that's just how it's going to be right now. And we got to just be like, all right, but really want to focus on how amazing they are, right? Like, to
mm,
put themselves out there, right? To be themselves, to bear, like, I mean, talk about being vulnerable. You don't always have to be expressive and, like, say how you're feeling to be vulnerable. I mean, what's more
mm,
vulnerable than what that coach and that athlete have been through? I'm sure there were a lot of, literally, I know blood, sweat, and tears is an expression, but I would imagine there's a lot of, there was some door slamming, there was maybe some bad words thrown in there. There was some tough moments, like, they wanted to throw in the towel. But that's the thing, that's the consistency. Whether or not you're winning the gold, I mean, you're going to the
mm.
Olympics. Like, that's, to me, that's badass, and a great, thank you to them for sharing what is possible in all of us, in our own version, to some degree, right? We all have a hero's journey within us. We all have a story to tell. We all can accomplish something that is quote unquote great. And just because it's the Olympics doesn't make it any more great than somebody that is an adult that's learning to read for the first time, or whatever it is that they're particularly setting out to do and staying consistent for, right? So that's the same thing in my eyes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we're definitely appreciative and grateful to them, not just for, again, putting United States over the top in the medal count. So as we close and circle back to the topic specifically of gratitude and that we've covered, let's kind of summarize a little bit. Where we started was gratitude is more than just a nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's a powerful practice backed by science that can enhance not only our mental but also our physical health by just integrating some very simple gratitude practices into our daily routines. We can really begin to see positive changes unfold.
Absolutely. And I would like to end with a couple words and phrases that you can use throughout the day to remind yourself about the gratitude practice. Instead of saying, I have to do something, you could say, I get to. So I have to go to work now. Like, I get to go to work. I got to take the kids to school. I get to take the kids to school.
Nice.
And then
very
also,
easy change, but impactful.
yeah. And sometimes that like switch is just a reminder in your mind. It's like you're getting prompted. You're getting a little reminder. And then also put "and I love it" behind the end of the sentence. This one can actually be kind of fun. For example, I have to go to the dentist today. And instead of it being a point, "and I love it." And so when you're doing tasks, like I gotta go for a jog and I love it. And so it's another way to remind yourself that it's to me it's good because it like kind of gives me a little chuckle, and whoever I'm like with, like they're like laughing at me like, all right, you go with your loving it thing, I'm gonna go not like it, but whatever. So "and I love it" doesn't mean you actually always have to love it, but like it can be like a reminder to change the perspective, right? You don't actually have to love getting a cavity filled, right? But you say it. Like maybe there's one aspect of it that you do like going to because you get to take an hour off of work or whatever. So, just starting to add, because words are really powerful. And then I always like to suggest that people steer away from absolutes like, "Oh, I'm never gonna be happy," or "I'm always in a bad mood." And so those never and alwayses buzz yourself when you lean towards them or you say those. You can ask yourself, like, is that true? Right? Am I really always, in a bad mood? That kind of a thing. So don't use absolutes if possible. Saying "I love it" after activities you might not love, and "I get to" instead of "have to."
Awesome. And real quick and, like I said, impactful, but just some kind of easy changes that everyone can make. And there's just a lot of opportunities as well, because a lot of those phrases and statements are things that we all say every day, all the time. That's amazing. So do you want to, one of the things that I actually did want to mention is, and this may seem like something that gratitude can't do. What about if you're, because you mentioned stress and overwhelm, and we've covered those early on. Can gratitude be utilized in the moment to kind of help out with situations that are causing some anxiety? Or does it have to be isolated and it'll have an impact, down the road?
Yeah, we want to not deny or bypass if you're actually experiencing emotion that's like safe to release. So, you can like if say you are stressed out and you're doing some breathing exercises, in order to shift your state, right? So gratitude can be a state change. If you're stressed or you have you're feeling overwhelmed, you do some of the breathing exercises that we mentioned. You can say, "I'm really grateful that I can breathe right now. I'm really grateful that I'm able to get outside for some fresh air. I'm really grateful that I'm able to walk around the block." And so you can combine these practices and absolutely like, I'm grateful for the present moment, right? So there's nothing that the present moment can't solve. And so you can actually just say, I'm grateful for the present moment. I'm grateful for the present moment. And that can be an affirmation and gratitude and meditation at the same time. So again, we're compounding these to use as tools to get us to become more aware, more understanding of ourselves.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your insights today, as always. Thank you to the listeners for joining us. Did you want to end with a poignant and relevant quote, as is your wont?
That's a lot of pressure, but I will do my best. Gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings, turn routine jobs into joy, and change ordinary opportunities into blessings.
Love it.
And
Excellent.
I'm so grateful for you, this podcast, my ability to express and share some of these tools, and of course, our listeners. We really cherish and appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. And I would just add that we hope that this episode is going to inspire you to start your own gratitude practice and ritual. As we always try to remind you, it's those small, consistent actions that will lead to big transformations. Journey to your oneself. There's a lot of great episodes coming up. Please follow us, download us on whatever listening platform you're using, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, whatever it is. Check out our shorts on YouTube, follow us, subscribe, and like there, Instagram, everywhere. There's going to be some gratitude resources that we're going to have available, youroneself.com, taraoneal.com, that are going to be helpful to spark the beginning of this gratitude journey for you. So, as always, peace, love, and self-discovery.